Imagine stepping off a long flight, and instead of excitement, your body betrays you, your vision blurs, your ankles balloon, and you can't even steady yourself enough to grab your luggage. Sounds dramatic, right? But here's the shocking truth. Doctors report that seniors are up to 3 times more likely to face medical emergencies mid-flight than younger travelers. And the worst part? These aren't random accidents. They come from common mistakes, tiny choices made hours earlier that spiral into life-altering problems. Mistakes like trusting the airline's senior-friendly meal options. Spoiler, they're often overloaded with hidden salt, or assuming that just sitting still for 10 hours is harmless, when in reality, it quietly raises the risk of dangerous blood clots. Now, here's the good news. Every single one of these problems is avoidable. With a few smart strategies, you can step off the plane not drained, but ready to explore with energy and confidence. And before we dive into the top 10 mistakes and how to fix them, I need to ask a favor. If this already feels like it's speaking directly to you, don't just hit like, tap that new hype button. It's YouTube's way of making sure senior voices rise above the noise. You can hype 3 videos a week, and each one tells YouTube that seniors deserve content made for us. Because the truth is simple, long flights can either steal your trip, or supercharge it. And today, I'll show you exactly how to make sure it's the second. Meet Harlan Rusty Whitaker, a 67-year-old retired firefighter from Ohio. A man built on grit, pride, and decades of racing into burning buildings when others were running out. Rusty was the kind of guy who believed nothing could shake him. If he could face collapsing ceilings, surely he could handle a long flight. Right? Wrong. Dead wrong. Rusty booked the trip of a lifetime, a journey to Australia to finally see the Great Barrier Reef. But what should have been a dream vacation nearly turned into a nightmare before he even set foot in Sydney. Within hours of boarding, Rusty discovered that airplanes can break the strongest bodies in ways most seniors never expect. First came the swollen feet. He joked that his ankles looked like overfilled water balloons. Then, halfway through the flight, dizziness set in so severe he thought the cabin was spinning. At one point, he even reached for the call button, convinced something was terribly wrong with his heart. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds extreme. Surely that's rare. But here's the unsettling fact. More seniors end up in airport medical rooms after long flights than from lost luggage or pickpocket scams combined. And most of them, just like Rusty, walked onto the plane healthy and confident, never realizing the hidden dangers waiting at 35,000 feet. The problem? It wasn't bad luck. Rusty wasn't cursed. He simply made the same everyday mistakes that thousands of older travelers make without realizing the cost. Things like relying too much on free wine to help him sleep, trusting the airline's food without checking what was really in it, and even skipping the small but vital stretches his doctor once suggested. But here's the twist. Rusty didn't let the disaster define his trip. He turned it into a lesson. By the time he was flying back home, he had built a whole new system for traveling smarter, safer, and stress-free. And the solutions weren't complicated. They were tiny shifts that made the difference between exhaustion and adventure. That's why I want you to meet Rusty, not because he failed, but because he discovered the map we'll follow in this video. His story is proof that even the strongest seniors can stumble, but also proof that anyone can learn to outsmart these hidden dangers. So stay with me, because as we walk through Rusty's journey, you'll see the 10 exact mistakes he made, and, more importantly, how you can avoid every single one of them. Mistake 1. Ignoring cabin pressure risks. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Stepping onto a plane is like tricking your body into living on a mountaintop without warning. Most cabins are pressurized to the equivalent of 6,000 to 8,000 feet above sea level. That means less oxygen, slower circulation, and hidden strain on your heart and lungs. For seniors, this isn't a small nuisance. It can snowball into fatigue, dizziness, or even memory lapses. But because the effects aren't always dramatic, many seniors brush it off. Rusty did. At the airport, he chuckled at the compression socks display. Those are for old men. 12 hours later, his ankles were so swollen he couldn't fit his shoes back on. When he stood to stretch, the floor seemed to tilt under him. For a retired firefighter proud of his stamina, it was a humbling wake-up call. And here's the shocking fact: blood clot risk doubles on flights over 4 hours. Seniors are the most vulnerable, not just the frail, but healthy, active travelers too. The danger isn't always immediate. Some clots don't cause problems until days later. That's why a senior who felt fine mid-flight can suddenly land in the ER abroad. Airlines rarely highlight this, because panicked passengers mean lawsuits. The good news? Small choices prevent big problems. Compression socks keep blood moving in your legs. An aisle seat makes it easier to walk every couple of hours. Staying hydrated keeps circulation steady. And here's the overlooked hack: avoid heavy sleep meds or too much alcohol, since both keep you unnaturally still, the perfect storm for clot formation. Rusty learned fast. On his return trip, he wore compression socks, supportive shoes, and moved often. This time, he landed clear-headed and pain-free. Maybe the experts know a thing or two, he admitted. So let me ask you, have you ever stepped off a flight swollen, dizzy, or foggy? Share your story below. Your experience could save another senior traveler from making the same mistake Rusty did. Mistake 2: over-relying on airport carts and assistance. Here's a myth many seniors believe: why walk when the airport provides carts and wheelchairs? It feels convenient, even safe. But the hidden truth is this: the more you sit before your flight, the more dangerous the flight becomes. Hours of waiting in carts, wheelchairs, or seated lounges already slow circulation. Add that to the cramped hours on board, and you've quietly doubled your risk of clots, swelling, and stiffness before you even buckle your seatbelt. Rusty saw this play out at JFK. A fellow traveler, a 72-year-old woman, had requested cart service to her gate. The cart arrived late, and by the time she reached the terminal, her flight had already boarded. Instead of saving her stress, the helpful service cost her the trip. And medically, it cost her too. She had already spent 3 hours sitting, then faced another 9 in the air. That's the perfect storm for swollen legs, dizziness, or worse. Here's the shocking statistic few talk about: seniors who remain sedentary for more than 4 consecutive hours, even on the ground, have nearly the same circulation risks as being mid-flight. In other words, the airport chair can be just as risky as the airplane seat. So what's the solution? Accept help if you need it, but don't let carts replace movement entirely. Build in walking breaks between check-in and security. If you must wait for assistance, use that time for simple stretches, ankle circles, shoulder rolls, or standing every 20 minutes. And when boarding, try not to be the last passenger rushed on the plane. Give yourself time to move calmly and keep blood flowing. Rusty took the lesson to heart. On his next trip, he walked to his gate in stages, stopping for short rests rather than one long ride. The difference was dramatic: no dizziness, no throbbing legs, and far less anxiety. Have you ever trusted airport carts, only to face a delay, missed flight, or swelling when you finally boarded? Share your experience below. Your tip could help another traveler make a safer choice. Mistake 3: sleeping wrong. Most people think sleeping on planes is harmless. It's just uncomfortable, right? Here's the surprising truth: sleeping upright without proper support can actually pinch nerves, strain your spine, and trigger circulation problems that last long after the flight. For seniors, it's not just about waking up stiff. It can mean numb fingers, tingling legs, or a back spasm that ruins the first days of a trip. Rusty learned this the hard way. Somewhere over the Pacific, he finally dozed off, slumped forward in his seat with no neck support. When he woke up, his hands were tingling, and the sensation didn't fade. For days in Sydney, he worried he'd pinched a nerve, or worse, triggered something permanent. The simple mistake of just sleeping it off mid-flight nearly cost him the energy he needed to explore. Here's a fact airlines don't emphasize: the cramped posture of airplane seats accelerates joint compression and spinal stress by up to 30%. For seniors, who already deal with reduced flexibility, the damage is quicker and longer lasting. That's why so many travelers over 60 land with sore backs, tight necks, or numb limbs. So how do you fix it? Preparation matters. A supportive travel pillow, not the floppy ones sold at every kiosk, keeps your neck aligned. A small lumbar cushion or even a folded sweater behind your lower back reduces strain. Reclining just a little, not fully, takes pressure off the spine without collapsing your posture. And the often overlooked trick, shift positions every 45 minutes, even while dozing. A simple ankle cross or shoulder adjustment helps circulation and avoids locking in one bad position. On his return trip, Rusty invested in a proper neck pillow and kept a small cushion behind him. He didn't just sleep better, he woke up feeling human again, instead of fighting off a numb arm. What's your trick for sleeping on planes? Neck pillow, recline, or something unique? Drop it in the comments, your idea might save another traveler's next flight. Mistake 4, overpacking cabin bags. Here's a mistake too many seniors make, thinking, I'll keep everything I need in my carry-on so it's safer. Sounds smart, right? But here's the hidden danger, the heavier your bag, the higher your risk of injury. Seniors lifting weight overhead in a cramped, unstable cabin face one of the leading causes of in-flight accidents, dropped luggage and strained backs. Rusty thought he was strong enough. On his way to Australia, he packed his carry-on with snacks, books, meds, and even a spare pair of shoes. Halfway through boarding, he stood to stow it overhead, just as turbulence jolted the plane at the gate. His bag slipped, nearly crashing onto the head of the passenger below. He caught it, but strained his shoulder in the process. For the first 2 days of his trip, he winced every time he lifted his arm. The shocking truth? Airline injury reports show that turbulence-related bag accidents are among the top non-medical emergencies in flight. And most involve passengers over 60, because what feels like a manageable weight on the ground becomes a hazard when balance is compromised at 30,000 feet. The solution isn't giving up your essentials, it's packing smarter. Keep your heaviest items in checked luggage. Use a lightweight, soft-sided cabin bag you can lift without strain. Store only what you absolutely need for the flight, medications, a water bottle, small electronics, and a sweater. And here's the overlooked trick, if your bag feels even slightly heavy, ask a flight attendant for help. They'd rather lift it safely than respond to an injury mid-flight. Rusty adjusted on his return trip. He carried half the weight, kept it under his seat, and suddenly boarding felt effortless. No stress, no close calls, no sore shoulder. Have you ever struggled with your carry-on, or seen someone nearly injured by overhead bags? Share your story in the comments. It might convince another traveler to pack lighter next time. Mistake 5, medication timing chaos. Here's something few seniors realize until it's too late. Time zones don't just confuse your body, they confuse your pill schedule. Skipping a dose or doubling up by accident isn't just inconvenient, it can derail your health mid-trip. Blood pressure spikes, blood sugar crashes, or heart rhythm changes often begin with one simple mistake, forgetting when to take your meds. Rusty saw this firsthand with his travel companion, Ellen, a 70-year-old retired teacher. Midway through their long-haul flight, she realized she'd missed her blood pressure pill. Within hours, she felt flushed, dizzy, and anxious. Instead of enjoying her first night in Sydney, she spent it monitoring her heart rate in the hotel, worried she'd need urgent care. One tiny timing error stole the peace of her first day abroad. Here's the shocking part. Studies show medication adherence drops by nearly 50% on long international flights among older travelers. Between jet lag, unfamiliar airport routines, and the chaos of boarding, even careful seniors slip up. The consequences? Unstable blood pressure, irregular sleep, or even hospital visits in foreign countries where access to care isn't always simple. But here's the solution, plan your medication like you plan your passport. Carry pills in your cabin bag, not checked luggage. Use a travel pill organizer labeled by both day and time, not just morning or evening. Before you fly, ask your doctor how to adjust for time zone shifts. Sometimes spacing doses differently works better than sticking to the home clock. And here's the overlooked hack, set silent phone alarms that remind you discreetly, no matter where you are. On their return trip, Rusty and Ellen used alarms and organizers, and the difference was night and day. No skipped pills, no panic, no lost energy. Have you ever missed or doubled a dose while traveling? How did you handle it? Drop your story below. Your advice might save another traveler from the same scare. Mistake 6. Trusting in-flight meals too much. Airline food looks harmless. After all, it's just dinner in the sky, right? But here's the hidden truth. Those neatly wrapped trays are loaded with sodium, preservatives, and dehydrating ingredients designed for shelf life, not senior health. For older travelers, that extra salt and sugar can trigger swelling, dizziness, and dangerous blood pressure spikes before the plane even lands. Rusty learned this on his flight when he polished off the complimentary pasta, cheese, and crackers. Hours later, his fingers felt tight, his ankles ballooned, and he was guzzling water like a marathon runner. By the time he landed, he was too sluggish to enjoy his first evening. What he thought was a free meal turned into a hidden energy thief. Here's the shocking fact most passengers don't know. Post-pandemic, many airlines quietly cut back on low-sodium or senior-friendly options. What used to be available by special request is now often missing entirely. That leaves seniors stuck with the same heavy, salty meals as everyone else, meals their bodies process less efficiently. So what's the fix? Don't rely on airlines to fuel your health. Bring your own snacks, unsalted nuts, fruit, or a protein bar that won't spike your blood sugar. Drink water consistently instead of waiting until you're thirsty. And here's the overlooked hack. If you do accept the airline meal, skip the bread roll and salty extras, and focus on the protein and vegetables. They're usually the least harmful part. On his return trip, Rusty packed a small bag of almonds and dried fruit. Instead of feeling bloated and foggy, he stepped off the plane energized and ready to explore. Do you trust airline food, or do you pack your own snacks? Share your answer below. Your idea might inspire another senior to rethink their in-flight meal strategy. Mistake 7. Overusing alcohol and free drinks. For many seniors, flying still carries a sense of nostalgia. Remember when a free glass of wine or complimentary whiskey was part of the adventure? It felt like a little luxury, a celebration at 30,000 feet. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That harmless-looking glass of wine in the air isn't the same as one at home. At altitude, alcohol hits harder and faster. The reduced oxygen levels thin your blood, worsen dehydration, and can even make medications act unpredictably. One drink can feel like 2, or more. Rusty learned this the hard way when he accepted back-to-back free refills on a long flight. By the time he stood up, he was lightheaded, his balance wobbled, and he nearly stumbled into another passenger. What felt like innocent fun suddenly looked like a health scare. And here's the shocking detail most airlines won't tell you. Alcohol on planes doesn't just dehydrate, it can triple your risk of dangerous blood clots when combined with long hours of sitting still. Mix in common meds like blood thinners, sleep aids, or blood pressure pills, and that cocktail isn't just relaxing, it's risky. So what's the smart play? If you enjoy a drink, pace yourself. Stick to one, sip it slowly, and balance it with plenty of water. Better yet, swap the wine for sparkling water with lemon or juice. You'll still get that celebratory feel without the crash landing on your health. Rusty did exactly that on his return flight. He swapped his second glass of wine for a tall bottle of water, stretched every couple of hours, and landed refreshed instead of foggy. But alcohol isn't the only hidden risk while flying. In fact, the next mistake seniors make doesn't happen in the air at all, it happens in the airport. And it can make you a target without you even realizing it. Mistake 8. Flashy comfort gear. Here's something most seniors never realize. The gear you carry can paint a target on your back. Airports are full of watchers, people scanning for the easiest, most distracted travelers. And ironically, seniors who try to look prepared often end up signaling vulnerability instead. Take Rusty. He had just bought a brand new travel pillow with a shiny logo, noise-canceling headphones, and a sleek tablet case. To him, it felt like confidence, like saying, I travel smart. But to the wrong eyes, it screamed, here's someone carrying expensive gadgets, and probably moving slower than most. Sure enough, while waiting at the gate, he almost lost his carry-on when a quick-handed stranger tried to slide it from under his seat. And here's the shocking truth: airport theft is more common in waiting areas than on the plane itself. Thieves don't always go after your wallet, they target distractions. A senior fumbling with flashy new gear is the perfect setup. So, what's the smarter approach? Blend in. Choose neutral, practical travel gear without obvious logos or luxury designs. A plain black pillow, a simple crossbody bag, and noise-reducing earbuds instead of giant name-brand headphones. And most importantly, keep valuables close, ideally in a zippered pouch or hidden pocket. Rusty eventually ditched the flashy gadgets and carried a slim, no-frills bag that looked boring but worked like armor. Suddenly, he wasn't a target, he was invisible. Here's the part seniors often forget: travel safety isn't always about being stronger, it's about being less noticeable. By staying practical instead of flashy, you shift from being a target to being just another traveler in the crowd. But gear isn't the only hidden hazard. The real danger comes from what seniors don't do once they're seated. The next mistake could silently threaten your health without you even realizing it. Mistake 9. Forgetting movement hacks. Most seniors believe staying safe on flights just means walking around every few hours. But here's the hidden danger: on most long flights, seniors don't actually walk enough to counteract the hours of stillness. Even those quick bathroom breaks? They barely scratch the surface of what your body needs. Rusty used to think he was fine. "I always stretch when I get up," he said proudly. But on one transatlantic flight, he only managed to leave his seat twice in 8 hours. By the time he landed, his calves felt like bricks, and a faint throbbing crept up his legs. That invisible discomfort? It was his body's warning that blood flow had slowed dangerously. Here's the shocking fact: deep vein thrombosis, DVT, can begin forming in under 4 hours of immobility. And what makes it worse is that clots often don't cause immediate pain. They sit quietly, waiting, sometimes days later, to create a medical crisis. But here's the empowering truth: you don't need to be marching up and down the aisle to protect yourself. Small, discreet hacks right in your seat can be life-saving. Try ankle circles, drawing circles with your toes under the seat in front of you. Or tighten and release your calf and thigh muscles every 20 minutes like you're gently pumping blood upward. Even engaging your core, squeezing your abdominal muscles for a slow count of 10, acts like a mini workout while seated. Rusty finally discovered these tricks after his scare. On his next trip, he set a timer on his watch to buzz every 30 minutes. Each time, he'd do a round of seated stretches. It looked like nothing to others, but it made him feel alert, loose, and safe. By the time he landed, instead of stiff legs, he felt steady enough to walk right into his adventure. Which in-seat exercise would you actually try on your next flight? Ankle circles, seated stretches, or core tightens? Share it below. Your tip could spark someone else's safety habit. Mistake 10. Skipping post-flight recovery. Here's the trap most seniors fall into. They think the danger ends when the plane lands. In reality, the hours after a flight can be the most punishing on your body. Your circulation is sluggish, your muscles are tight, and your brain is still fogged from cabin pressure. Skip recovery, and you risk wiping out the very energy you flew across the world to enjoy. Rusty made this mistake in Sydney. After a long-haul flight from the US, he marched straight from baggage claim to a coastal hike he'd dreamed of for years. At first, adrenaline carried him. But within an hour, his legs felt heavy, his breathing shallow, and fatigue crushed him like a weight. The next 3 days of his trip? Gone, lost to exhaustion and soreness that could have been prevented. The shocking truth is this: fatigue isn't just being tired. In seniors, it compounds into dizziness, balance issues, and even heart strain. That's why doctors recommend a landing ritual, a reset before diving into sightseeing. What does that look like? Simple but powerful steps. Hydrate before leaving the airport to thin your blood and clear the fog. Elevate your feet for 20 minutes at your hotel to reduce swelling. Take a short, easy walk, not a strenuous hike, to gently restart circulation. And don't underestimate sleep. A 90-minute nap can reset your body clock better than powering through. Rusty learned the hard way that recovery isn't laziness, it's strategy. On his return trip, he followed a new ritual: water, light stretching, feet up, then a calm evening. The difference? He woke up the next day energized, clear-headed, and finally ready to enjoy his adventure without paying a hidden tax on his health. So let me ask you, when you land, do you push yourself right into sightseeing, or do you give your body time to reset? Drop your routine in the comments, it might save another traveler's trip. Rusty learned his lessons the hard way, but you don't have to. Every mistake he made is one that thousands of seniors repeat on long flights, and the scary part is most don't realize the damage until it's too late. Swollen ankles, foggy thinking, missed meds, even hidden clots, these aren't just inconveniences. They're the silent thieves of joy, stealing energy, clarity, and sometimes even health from what should be your best adventures. Here's the truth no airline will tell you: most of these dangers are invisible until they explode. You don't feel circulation slowing, you don't feel dehydration creeping in, and you don't see the fatigue building layer by layer. That's why seniors so often chalk it up to just getting older, when in reality, it's the flight, not their age, sapping their strength. But here's the good news: none of this is inevitable. Small, intentional choices can rewrite your travel story. Compression socks, smart hydration, mindful movement, planning medication timing, skipping the extra glass of wine, building in recovery, these aren't luxuries. They're survival tactics for keeping your body strong enough to truly enjoy the places you've waited a lifetime to see. Rusty now admits he wishes he'd known sooner. His first trip nearly unraveled because of mistakes he could have avoided with a little foresight. But on his next adventure, he stepped off the plane feeling steady, clear-headed, and ready to explore. That's the difference a few adjustments make. So let me leave you with this: every senior deserves to land not in a hospital, but in the heart of their dream. The choice isn't whether these risks exist, the choice is whether you prepare for them. If this helped you, don't just scroll away, tap that like button right now. But more importantly, hit the hype button. It's YouTube's newest way of lifting voices that matter, and every hype tells the algorithm, seniors deserve to be heard. You only get 3 hypes a week, make this one count for your future travels. And don't keep this to yourself. Share this video with a friend over 60 who's planning a trip soon. You could be the reason they land refreshed instead of rushed to an emergency room. Imagine saving someone you love from swollen ankles, dizzy spells, or medication mix-ups, all because you clicked share. That's real impact. Finally, hit subscribe to Senior Travel Adventures. Because here, we believe something powerful: adventure doesn't expire. It doesn't stop when you turn 60, or 70, or even 90. The only thing that changes is how wisely you prepare for the journey. And let's be honest, YouTube is flooded with travel tips made for 20-somethings with backpacks. But where's the advice for you? For seniors who've worked hard, raised families, and now finally have the time to explore? That's why this channel exists. When you subscribe, you're not just getting tips, you're joining a community of explorers who believe the best trips are still ahead. So go ahead, like, hype, share, and subscribe. Then drop a comment below with your bucket list destination. Where are you dreaming of flying next? Because here on Senior Travel Adventures, we're not just teaching you how to travel smarter, we're reminding the world that your journey is just beginning.